Hi everyone, you're watching The Inside Scoop. My name is Tanuja Benny. So the Angori sect of Hinduism, known for extreme rituals, was the focus of Reza Aslan CNN show, the March 5th episode, which came under heavy criticism by some major Hindu organizations for allegedly promoting xenophobia and Hinduphobia. Joining us today is Ajay Shah of American Hindus Against Defamation to talk about this. Welcome to the show, Ajay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It looks nice and sunny where you are right now.
I am in Los Angeles, California. It's always sunny in California.
Very, very nice. Yes, beautiful out there. All right, so Ajay, before we get to CNN's March 5th episode of Reza Aslan's talking about the Angori sect, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Okay, I'm based in Los Angeles, California. I am associated with the American Hindus Against Defamation, which is part of the Hindu Parishad of America. I have been a co-founder of Hindu Students Council, HinduNet, and AHAD. Professionally, I have degrees in chemistry and business, and I work for Cancer Research Institute here in California. And we've been active in all the Hindu community activities for several years.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about American Hindus Against Defamation group. Give us some more insight about that group.
Against Defamation is actually now 20 years old. As of 7th of 2017, we were the first Hindu anti-defamation organization anywhere in the world. We started as a response to denigrating image of Hindus deity, Lord Krishna, on Sony's AHAD album cover, and it depicted Shri Krishna or Shri Vishnu in a very bad light. And we started an online protest movement, eventually forced Aerosmith to withdraw the album, and that was the beginnings of American Hindus Against Defamation. Subsequent to that, we carried out a lot of other movements, commercial denigration of Hindu deities, Hindu symbols, Hindu culture, Hindu ethos in mass media and on products. So we have had, as I said, we took on Sony, we took on other organizations like Kohler, we took on a local club called Karma Club in Chicago, and in all the cases, we were able to reason with the producers and have them withdraw the products. In cases, we have been very peaceful, we're non-violent, and we adhere to the First Amendment. We respect people's First Amendment rights. At the same time, the same First Amendment gives us the right to speak up and defend the Hindu symbols against crass commercialization.
Okay. All right. So Reza Aslan's March 5th episode on CNN, where he talked about the Angori sect. How has that affected the Hindu community?
So it is a very interesting take that Reza had on Hindu Dharma show from beginning to end. Reza Aslan starts out by saying that, and in very reasoned and a very sophisticated way, he talks about Hindu Dharma and he talks about the caste system. He invites people who are academicians, he invites people who are Hindu spiritual leaders, and he has them talk about Hindu caste system, and he talks about how bad the caste system is. Then he goes and he makes a statement, well, there is this one particular community which does not adhere to the traditional caste system, and that community happens to be Aghori. And so he then talks about all the bad things that, supposedly the bad things that Aghoris do. For example, throwing the feces or eating the cannibalism and eating pieces of brain and living in filth and all the other things that he projects. So there's this one community, the 70 out of a 1.2 billion strong Hindu community around the world. And he finds this community of 70 people who are the only people who don't practice, according to him, casteism. And these are the people who have all these other bad qualities. And then he extrapolates that and says, well, but among the minority of this minority, they do such a fantastic, good job. Now, if that is the representation of Hindu, first of all, he does not understand what caste, the difference between caste. So in what we call varna and jati. So one is based on profession, one is based on birth. He mixes the two up. He then talks about this smallest of the small community, highlights their bad points, and then makes a point that, well, look, these are the people who are as bad as they are. They're only a small minority of minority who actually do not believe in caste system, and then they're protected by doing some good. The problem is this. When this is the material, one of the middle school teachers and some of the elementary school teachers said they want to have a copy of this video to teach about Hindu Dharma in their classroom. This is something that was posted on Twitter addressed at Reza Aslan. So if you take something like this and you teach to the kids about, and you take it to high school, you take it to elementary school, and you tell the students that this is what Hindu Dharma is, what is the image of Hindu Dharma you're trying to propagate among the school children? These are the things that subject the Hindu kids in America to ridicule. And once you subject the Hindu kids in America to ridicule, it's very easy to physically attack them, have violence against them, verbally abuse them, to bully them. So there is a direct physical link once a community is ridiculed openly in a way that Reza Aslam has done. This is exactly how Dogbusters got started, because people ridiculed women putting the bindi or on their forehead, and somebody took it to the ridiculous extent, and then there were violent incidents, including a murder that was actually linked to Dotbusters. So we see a direct link between this representation of Hindu Dharma and, or I should say, misrepresentation of Hindu Dharma and physical violence that is going to come out of it against the Hindu children, and bullying that has come out of it in the schools. So this is not an innocent act. It is not an act that is just meant to denigrate Hindu Dharma. It is an act that, according to us, and most of the people who are adherents of Hindu Dharma, it is an act that is going to lead to violence against children in schools and colleges.
Okay. The Aghori sect, as you said, it consists of 70 members, under 100, which obviously does not represent mainstream Hinduism. Hinduism being the third largest religion in the world, with over 1 billion Hindus worldwide. Now, CNN chose to focus on this particular sect with less than 100 members. Do you think that CNN intentionally was trying to show Hinduism in a negative light?
So, I mean, the obvious conclusion is that there was really not a whole lot of forethought in the CNN, and from the management perspective, as what they're trying to portray. I think they should have consulted the Hindu community leaders. They should have come to us or go to any other Hindu community organization and said, is this a fair and accurate representation of Hindu Dharma? And based on that, and we would have given our feedback. Now, before the show aired, we got some tidbits of the show due to their promos and all that, and we said, look, this is something that is going to be extremely offensive to Hindus. Not only it's going to be extremely offensive to Hindus, it is going to lead to violence against Hindu children, and it's going to lead to bullying of Hindu children. You should think harder and withdraw the episode, consult with us, and then go back on the air in a way that represents Hindu Dharma fairly. They were not willing to listen to us. So that is certainly something that CNN should take responsibility for. As far as Reza Aslan is concerned, I don't know what his motives are. I can't really assign motives to him, but but there's one telling sign of what may be indicative of his motive. He was asked by one of the community members or reporter that why has he not done similar shows about his own faith? And his answer was that he was not able to get this. He wanted to do a show in Pakistan on one of the Ismaili communities, and nobody would ensure that show. And that's why he was not able to do that show. And so that kind of tells me that he is following a double standard. He is projecting Islam through the Sufi philosophy that he follows, which is a very not considered to be mainstream Islamic philosophy. In fact, there was a recent bombing of a prominent Sufi shrine in Karachi, and Sufis are very peace-loving, and but they just don't quite fit in the mainstream, and they were bombed over there. So he projects the Islam through the Sufi philosophy, which everyone can relate to. At the same time, he projects Hindu Dharma through the Aghor philosophy or Aghori philosophy that most of the Hindus cannot relate to. So we certainly think that there is a double standard in the way he is projecting Hindu Dharma, and CNN should have seen through it. And if they could not see through it, they should have consulted Hindu community and Hindu community leaders, Hindu scholars to decipher this.
Now, there was a joint statement by several Hindu organizations that was issued against CNN, demanding, number one, that it stop airing Reza's show called Believer with Reza Aslan. And they also demanded that CNN issue an apology to the Hindu community for promoting xenophobia and Hinduphobia. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so several Hindu organizations banded together, and individually they carried out the protests. So, for example, American Hindus Against Defamation put up an online signature. I think Hindu Mahasabha and several other organizations put up a signature campaign on petitions.com. We put it up on indiapetitions.com. There are other, all of us formed coalition of Hindu organizations as well, where all of us came together on a single platform. So, for example, the coalition that AHAD, or American Hindus Against Defamation, is a coalition. So we represent some of the largest Hindu organizations in America, in North America, including Hindu Mandir Executive Council, which is itself an organization representing hundreds of Hindu temples across the United States. So they joined our coalition as well. Ekal Vidyalay, the Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, all of these organizations banded together, and we all went as a united front to CNN and to Hindu community and said, look, this is a gross misrepresentation of Hindu Dharma. It is going to have direct impact on Hindus who are living in United States and other countries where the show is aired, and this has to be rectified. So this is one of the times where I'm really proud to say that the Hindu community actually came together and presented a united front to CNN. Now, it is also true that we have not had a positive response from CNN, which is really disappointing. We were expecting CNN, which has a large presence in India, to be more responsive to Hindu community. I think that if CNN continues down this path, CNN will have will have an impact on its viewership, where there is a significant number of Hindus in the viewership. They will impact in terms of advertisers who are willing to advertise on CNN, and impact in terms of their credibility in a large market like India. So again, we understand CNN has absolute rights in terms of First Amendment. They can put up anything they want on their network. But is that how a trusted mainstream organization going to function, or is it going to function as an organization that is trying to promote fake news, as their political opponents will claim?
And as you said, there have been quite a few peaceful protests about this recently. Will there be more protests in the coming months or weeks?
Sure. We are looking into it. I think as of now, I think there are about a dozen cities where the protests were held. There was a protest in near Milpitas in Bay Area in California. There was a protest in New York City. There was a massive protest in Chicago, in Houston, in Washington, D.C., and several other places. So we will continue to assess and see what is the best way to take this movement forward. But we are not going to give CNN a pass on this. This is something that is near and dear to Hindus, because it really pertains at the end of the day to the safety of Hindu children as we see it. And CNN cannot claim innocence if there is another attack on Hindu kids in the school because their teacher showed them this Believer as a show.
Okay. Ajay, do you have any final words for our viewers before we go?
Yeah, I think I know I really appreciate the opportunity to express the view that AHAD and all the Hindu community has. I'm merely a spokesperson for the Hindu community here. So I really appreciate the opportunity that iTV Gold has presented to me. I think that through this kind of outreach, I think the CNN will realize that this is not a voice of a single Hindu, but the voice of a united Hindu community across the ideological spectrum, across the organizational barriers, and across the national boundaries and across the boundaries of language, caste, and all of the boundaries, the socioeconomic strata, all of that. It really transcends all of that, and all Hindus are one when it comes to proper representation of Hindu community, Hindu cultural icons, Hindu philosophy in mass media. So thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for your time, Ajay. We really appreciate it. And you enjoy the rest of the day, the beautiful weather you guys are having out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's our show for today, viewers. Join us again next week for more on the Inside Scoop.